Welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. And of course, you're seeing me solo right now because just as we're about to go live, Evan decided he was going to peace out. So that's just due to the lovely world of technology. But today we're excited. We have Daniel Baker, Wood Boyles from the Blue Collar Talent Scouts on the show today. Recruiting and retention consultancy based down in lovely Texas. Can't wait to have a conversation with them. If it's anything like the preamble that we've been having a little bit before we got going on the show, it's going to be one hilarious outtakes after another with some nuggets dropped in. Of course, talking about effective strategies for finding jobs for skilled workers and getting them into the HVAC industry. And it's it's going to be fun because here's the thing with recruiting, and we see this all the time. With inside of it, people are like, I can't find workers. I can't find workers. I can't find workers. There's other people that say, hey, I can't, I have to turn away people that are coming in to work for me because my culture and the retention part is so strong with inside their business. And there's two paradigms behind that. And I'm fascinated to dive into their experience on both recruiting top level talent, but then the retaining and retention of top level talent, because that's really what helps your business move forward is great people in place. So today's episode, of course, would not be brought to you by the sponsors on the top, CHIRP, Real-Time 360. Sorry, Matt Benton didn't update this logo. Profit Rocket, and, of course, On Purpose Media. And in no particular order, we're going to go with CHIRP first. So CHIRP is the ultimate automation toolbox for home service pros. It helps you capture leads, connect faster, and close more deals, and in turn those deals into raving fans. The way you do it is automated text messages, emails, ringless voicemails, direct mail, rehash programs, Google reviews, the list goes on and on and on. Of course, you can get 25% off your first 3 months with CHIRP by using this link that I am feverishly searching for right there, chirp.com/HSSR. Check them out, and you can start earning some cash from that. Not even cash from that. Put it this way. Dave signed up first month, $42,000 in revenue in business just with CHIRP. Cassie signed up $80K in revenue in 14 days. That's what I mean. That's how it works. Get 25% off. Real-Time 360. Hey, look, if you're tired of juggling multiple marketing tools and agencies, owning your logins, say goodbye to that frustration and take control of your marketing with Real-Time 360. So streamline reviews, automate social media, engage customers with live chat, and track your success all in one place and join the revolution. Empower your success with Real-Time 360. I did a demo of their software, Real-Time360.io. Phenomenal product, phenomenal person, and Matt Benton and what they have on the go. So check that out to be able to get control of some of your data. And last, but certainly not least, of course, is Profit Rocket. So if you're an HVAC business owner and you're looking to start, so here's the thing, Real-Time 360 is great. It's great. But if you don't have the operations in order to be able to propel your company, this is where the Profit Rocket can really help out. It helps you with your bottom line revenue. And so you need to be on the lookout for the Profit Rocket Blueprint, which is coming up. It's actually live. We also have the Profit Rocket Business Summit coming up. It happens this September 27th to 29th down in lovely Austin, Texas. There's going to be some phenomenal speakers on that show. Some of the industry's finest that you know of: Amanda Trello, Kenny Byrne, Joe Casera, Mario Lopez is going to be on there. And it's just an absolute phenomenal conference. And we can't wait to be down there live podcasting. But if you want to learn more about the blueprint, in order to be able to setting up your P&Ls, SOPs for positions, call scripts, marketing plans, etc., check it out. Callprofitrocket.com. Callprofitrocket.com and get on that today. So in a minute, we'll see you with our guests on the show.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, there's Evan. He made it on just in time. Sorry about the rocky intro, folks. I wasn't prepared to do that all on my own, trying to find and click buttons. It was just a mess. But anyways, welcome, Evan. Welcome, Dan. Welcome, Wood. Dan's actually on the phone right now. He's got a phone call. We'll mute him as he gets going. So
He's always on the go.
Right?
hey, when someone calls and is looking for a job, they take priority, you know?
Right? Backseat to us, fellow Canadians. So
Sorry about that.
It's all good. Welcome to the show.
all right. Oh, if he's trying now, he's unmuted. So
There we go.
well,
Welcome to the show, Dan. Thanks for prioritizing us.
No, I was just calling my sister. No. I was calling my sister to tell her to tune in that I'm on a podcast with Joel McHale from the community. And she's like, well, why are you on a podcast with Joel McHale? I'm like, well, they canceled the show. What else is he going to do? So here we go. We're so excited.
Patiently waiting for the movie to come out. In case anybody is wondering what he's referencing, he was saying like, hey, I'm going to share this so I can see. I'm going to share the Chrome tab. So this is what he's referencing when he's talking about Joe McHale. Is he's saying that I look like Joe McHale? And you know what? I will take
a homely Joe McHale.
I will take that compliment, especially now that I've been starting to get a little bit more gray in my beard. Definitely.
That's what I'm saying.
Grow my hair a little bit longer. Yeah.
Well, he's got gray in his beard.
Yeah. No, I heard one of my friends tried Just for Men in his beard, and he said it turned it like this weird, thick, gross, texture. So he had to shave it off. So I'm like, you know what? Nope, not dealing with that. So
it can do it.
I hear it. I'm sorry that I messed up your intro. My bad.
Hey, no, it's all good. There really is no script to this show. Anyways, so blue collar talent scouts, Dan Wood. Why don't you tell us a little about yourselves, how you got in the industry, and all that good jazz?
Go ahead, Dan.
So I could go on for a day. I could go on for days if you want to jump in first, or it's totally up to you.
Well, my story's pretty straightforward. I actually started out at college as a youth pastor, did that for about 10 years. Got to a point I couldn't keep up with kids, and someone said, oh, you'd be great at this. And I ended up doing a corporate training gig with one of the service master divisions called True Green Kimlon. Went from there to HR management, did that 3 different companies. The third one was actually ARS Rescue Router. I was there 18 years. I covered probably about 5 different territories during that time. So ARS at the time I started had no real focus or individuals responsible for recruiting. So that was a big need even back in 2003, 2004, and it's only gotten worse. And so that's where I started to learn about it. And actually that's where I met Dan. He was a vendor for us, and he was in the same state I was, so we got to know each other that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I'm a former field tech. So I joined the Navy when I was 17. Was a main propulsion engineer, which is a kind of a cool way of saying I was really, really, really hot and super skinny because it was really, really, really hot, right? So I was in the belly of the ship for 4 years and went back. When I got out of the Navy, went back to the States. I was stationed in Japan and got into the air conditioning field, was a service tech for a number of years, service manager for a number of years. I got into recruiting, and I was actually the national sales manager for the company that Wood had talked about before. And I really liked it. I liked it a lot. And then pretty much my entire adult life, I've been involved with the trade, specifically heavy HVAC, plumbing, electrical, with recruiting and retention being the biggest key component. So that was pretty cool. I don't care what you say. I think I nailed it.
I was waiting for Evan. To say something, but I think
I wasn't expecting such a short answer from Dan. I mean,
oh no, there's time. This is a 7-hour podcast, right?
Absolutely.
That's part of his
Joe
promise or under promise, over deliver thing.
That's right. Well, I wanted to
let me get up and get my bottle of whiskey for this.
Yeah, I wanted to get the business done. That way, hour 4, the gloves come off. What's up?
Giddy up. Well, Dan, you and I had a great conversation before we even hopped onto the show.
Your French have a very thick French accent, which is kind of hard to overcome. Outside of that, yes, we had a great conversation.
No doubt about it, eh? And it was funny. I posted a question.
I'm hashtagging myself all over the place.
Everywhere. The thick Canadian. I put out a post this week asking about how many trucks do you have empty right now, sitting in the shop, because obviously each one of those is costing contractors a ton of money to not have those operating, to not have those full and on the road and running. And I even posed the question: is this a lack of leads problem where the phone's not ringing enough to be able to have 5 trucks, 6 trucks, 10 trucks on the road, or is this a recruiting issue? Where is it that you're struggling? And for a lot of guys, it was recruiting. So the timing of this, I think, is really important. And especially as we head into the fall and the winter, where companies that have calls, it's so much easier to recruit during that time when demand is low. So I think the timing of this conversation is going to be fantastic.
And thanks for having us on, for sure.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Dan was an easy sell. All he had to do was show me his haunted house YouTube page, and I was like, all right, we'll have you on.
Did you watch all the videos?
Of course. What else am I going to do on a Friday afternoon?
That's what I'm saying.
That doesn't work.
And the reason why I sent that to you, and I'll talk about this probably multiple times. So I'm gonna take a little sidebar here, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me the mic, please? I'm just kidding. I don't want the mic. Life is meant to be lived, period. We love what we do. In my opinion, we're the best at what we do, but we also live life. Why? Because it's the longest thing you're ever going to do. Everybody says life is short. I don't buy into that at all. It's the longest thing you're ever going to do. And you might as well do things that make you smile and laugh. So I'll talk about these things behind me a little bit. That's what Evan, or E-Dog, as we know him down here in Texas, that's what he was referring to, was my haunted house.
Ivan. We're going to go with Ivan. But here, so one thing, like with that life is meant to be lived. And I think a lot of people get a misconception around running a business. And look, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about anybody if they really get fulfilled with running their business and they want to work 80-hour weeks. But a lot of times when people introduce themselves, and I've started to make this shift for me too, and say, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm a father. I have 2 kids, a dog, and a wife. I also happen to run a business. And it's taking this shift away from business first, life second, life first, business second is the way that it should go. And I think a lot of people get that wrong. So I guess from a recruiting standpoint, or I guess working with individuals in a business standpoint, how can somebody then take this life is meant to be lived motto and put it into practice inside of, I guess, their recruiting and retention components within their business? We'll get straight to the meat and potatoes right now.
That's a great question. I don't know if you wanted to jump in first, Wood, or
I think one of the things, and maybe it's some where we can kind of do a historical versus actual now or present day. It used to be that guys, if they had a job, they felt lucky to have a job. They were going to work whatever hours you needed them to work, 20, 30 hours overtime in the summertime. They're going to do it because they got to, and a lot of managers manage that way. It's the good old days. Hey, we'd run an ad in the paper. We'd have a line down the street of plumbers, AC techs showing up with their tools and ready to get in a truck for us. Well, now, and Dan's really good with the way he says this, for every qualified technician, there's probably 20 companies out there that are looking for someone.
Yeah,
so that has become a much bigger deal. Back in the day, you know what? You had a technician whose daughter was playing softball or whose son was playing football, and they needed Thursday afternoons off. Well, that's just tough. You got work to do. I got calls for you to run. If you want to do that, you're making a choice. Don't bother coming back. Well, now there are so many people that look at life from a different perspective and say, I gotta work to be able to support my family, but my family is my life, or my interest outside of work or my life. And so unless you really can understand that and grasp that, you're already behind the 8 ball from an employer branding type perspective, because that's something that's real, and it's become more prevalent over the last 5 or 8 years as well. So,
well, you even look at what happened in 2020, 2021. I don't really like to use the name of what happened there too terribly often, might get censored. But you think about that, like now people were working from home. Now they had this opportunity, and it really has propelled it in the last 3 years, 4 years. And we started to see the trend. Like I've been working from home since, I don't even know, 2005, I guess. Off and on. I had an office, but I also worked from home in some of the other jobs. But like, really propelled this idea of this work-life balance and being able to make it an important thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
looking at, I guess, a business, I mean, right now coming up to the end of the summertime, in slammed and busy I mean, it's hot, right? People,
Sure.
there's calls to run. How do you then manage that on a retention side of things to be able to say, hey, my kid has a football game or soccer game or baseball game at 3:00 on a Wednesday. How can I still go to that and still do my work?
So that's a great question. And Woods, sorry, my upper lip is sweating. It's 109 degrees in Dallas right now with a heat index, and Canada doesn't even know numbers these high. I don't think this has ever happened in the history of Canada.
Well, yeah, Celsius doesn't get up.
It's
that
like
high.
109 gosh degrees outside. Well, Celsius doesn't count. That's not a real measure. I mean, let's get on the same page here.
Let's get on the same page. You're the only country in the world that still uses Fahrenheit.
I
He
think
did
Canada,
open that door.
So anyways, yeah, so it's really hot. So even though my AC's cranking, my upper lip is still sweating a little bit. So I apologize for that. So it has to start from the top down. And I know this is going to be a really awesome kind of in-depth, podcast. So we'll dissect everything. But most contractors these days, and I'm talking about residential service contractors, and I can't say most, but the ones that are the most active online, the ones that you see the most, it seems to me like they're more concerned about what the public thinks about their company. 5-star reviews on Google, 5-star on Yelp, if Yelp is still even a thing or whatever. And they care so much about that the folks that are currently working with them and the folks that they're interested in recruiting start to realize that it's really a money-driven thing. And then these guys and gals in the field end up being numbers. And, we're all people, and let's face it, kids coming out of high school, they're not interested in the trades. They want to be the next influencer on Twitter or YouTube. They want to be a game designer, all that kind of stuff. They're not really interested in working with their hands as much as they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and going all the way back. And so most companies, again, I feel like their priorities are a little bit misaligned. If you start from the inside and you work your way out, and as you recruit, if you recruit people to retain them and you really understand what they're about and you try to put processes in place so that things are covered in the long haul, you're definitely better off than if you're the type of organization that is more concerned about, revenue. And then once we get too many calls that we can run, now we're going to focus on recruiting. So ABR, always be recruiting, ABR. So and now that we're getting, and I feel like I'm kind of going all over the place, and I apologize for that, but now that we're getting into the fall, this is the best time to really get your processes in place so that you can hire to retain. See who you are, know what your current employees think about you, honestly, and then build on that so that when it is busy, you already have a good solid team in place.
Right. And I liked, by the way, the random squirrels, and I got two, but Wood, I'll let you go first on what you're going to say.
Well, I think just from a practical standpoint, listen, if you've got a guy who every week has, and again, this is not every person's going to be able to fit or work within every culture, right? If you've got a guy who says, hey, once a week, I got to be at my son's football practice. It's Thursday afternoons. I got to cut out by 3. That's something that if you've got a good employee and he produces for you elsewhere, he'll take those extra hour calls, or he'll take the weekend calls every so often. That's a guy that you got to figure out, all right, how can I get this guy to that, because it's important to him. Now, if you got the guy who's saying, listen, I just volunteered and I'm going to coach my daughter's little league basketball team, and they practice every day, and so I got to be gone by 2. That's something where even if they're a great employee, you're going to have to figure out something, because it's not fair to everyone else. Hey, he's cutting out at 2 and everyone else is climbing up into attics during the hottest part of the day. So there's some flexibility, and you got to be able to read the room. You got to be able to deal with being fair to everyone. And I don't think many coworkers or any techs that I've ever worked with or around would be like, well, it's not fair to give him Thursdays at 3 off because of this. If you're doing the same kind of thing for each person as you can, You got to
Right.
keep whatever you commit to, though, you got to deliver, because as soon as you don't, that becomes a nightmare.
Well, and that's where, I mean, as leaders, our job is to be solution-based oriented thinkers, right? And to find creative ways to solve problems. And at the end of the day, if we've got this one employee that wants this, like, we can't just stop at, oh, well, it's going to be unfair to everyone else, so no, you can't do that. We've got to think of creative ways to be able to make it balanced so that people don't feel like they're getting cheated in other areas. Because at the end of the day, and to touch on what you talked about, Dan, at the end of the day, the number one thing you can do to take care of your customers is to take care of your people.
Yes. You know what's shocking to me, and I've never understood it, even when I was in the field. And I'm not saying everyone, and when I say most, we have to sprinkle some salt on that. There's got to be a grain of salt with this, but
Maybe some pepper too.
maybe some pepper. You guys have pepper in Canada? I thought everyone was like poutine. Does that have pepper on it?
Well, you can put pepper on it.
You got Texas Pete up there?
Oh, that's from North Carolina. I
know it's not even made in Texas, but it's a hot sauce.
Yeah, and there's a lawsuit, I'll tell you what. So getting back on track, a lot of contractors, they focus on the next customer because they have a dollar amount in mind. If there's a certain square footage in a certain neighborhood, then the odds are high that if I can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I'm going to net X. Well, you know what? If you focused that much attention on properly onboarding and hiring and retaining one service technician, the payout over a year is what, 10 times, 20 times that one new customer. Most folks don't get that. Everybody gets excited with the shiny new toy. Oh, let's go, let's do this, and there's a new way to say this, a new way to say that. You know, I don't care what you say, we're in the people business. I mean, we just are. Every single person that works for you as a contractor, you know, and listen, some people say we're a family, some people say we're a group, and everybody has their own opinion, and it really doesn't matter. But if the people that are currently working for you don't feel welcome there, then I promise you, everybody within a 50-mile radius is going to know it. And whether you believe it or not, your reputation may be, as a contractor, the best 5-star contractor on Google and Yelp, but your reputation may be dog mess, you know, when it comes to the field folks. What good does having 1,000 calls come in a day if you've got 3 empty trucks in the parking lot?
Right. Well, and you look at the people in the field, they're a direct representation of your company.
Yes.
They are customer facing. They are impacted in that by being the second that they even before they knock on the door, the second that they roll up in front of the house and get out of the vehicle, they are a representation of your company. If you don't treat them right, how are they going to represent your company the right way? Right. It's the people, product, price, to go on, you know, what Evan was saying, people, product, price, but the people is your employees and then your customers. Makes a lot of sense. I guess in terms of, like, one thing that I wanted to go back to is, you know, not interested in the trades. You know, 20 years ago, it was easy. People want to get into the trades, even 30 years ago. And I remember when my dad was trying to push me to go into the trades in like early 2000s. That sounds so weird to say that. Early 2000s. It makes me feel old, even though I'm still kind of young. But
you're fucking old, bud.
I'm old, bud.
We're all youngsters.
I'm like the start of the millennial generation. Like, I don't identify as a millennial, which is very 2023 to say.
I knew it. It smells in here.
Stacy's.
I'm Gen X, by the way. I'm a Gen X.
There you go. There you go. But when you look at this, okay, it's 2023. People want to be an influencer. They want to be a YouTuber. They want to be a fucking whatever, right? They don't want to go into the trades. How can somebody, or I guess as an industry, create more of a grassroots movement to be able to get more people to come into the trades, or even as you as an individual business, get more people to come into the trades when they're young?
That is an awesome question. Would you want to take part on this one?
Well, I think, first of all, we soon after we started, we got connected to one of the local high schools there in Texas. We've been in that high school 3 times doing presentations about the trades. Now, granted, it's already a group of people who are part of a tech school approach. We've also done that with junior hires for career days. And that was a regional type effort. But I think there's got to be some of that. I think as well, you got to demonstrate the difference that the trades make. I mean, all these kids are being told And I think even high schools are being graded on the number or percentage of students that go to college.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That means that every counselor is going to be pushing, hey, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. Well, college is not what it used to be. It is for some. I don't mean to be derogatory, but it's fucking ripoff for some, because you go to college, you study something that's not going to be financially sound after. You're not going to have a good opportunity. You're going to come out of college having spent $100,000, be $25,000, $28,000 in debt. Those are the average numbers here in Texas. We've done the math. And you're going to find a job as a barista at Starbucks, or if you're really hip, at one of the locally owned coffee shops that's organic and all the other stuff that goes with that. But it does. I mean, you're going to make what, $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year. I know plumbers who hustle, who do well, who make $250,000 a year. I know AC techs who do the same, and they do it without ripping people off, but they rip buns off, and they've mastered their craft, and they can walk into any situation, calm down the homeowner, help the homeowner see the options, and help the homeowner make a decision that's in their best interest.
Yeah, and
that message is not getting out too often.
No. I will vehemently agree with you. As somebody who has a university level education, I have it's a business degree. It's just a Bachelor of Management. It's a generalized degree about business. And you know what most of that degree taught me? Well, it taught me how to read a P&L, but you can learn that on YouTube. It also taught me how to shotgun a beer, and how to hit a beer bong, and how to make sure that you don't have classes on Friday so you can have a 3-day party weekend, right? Like, and I'm kind of being a little facetious here and tongue in cheek, but like depending on the type of a job that you want, you know, right, you're going to work at Starbucks. Like, you know what, for me to get a job, I needed a university degree to get a job, but then the jobs I got were still shit, even though I had a university degree. And so where something makes sense is if it's like the sciences, or like the STEMs in a sense, right? I mean, technology to a lesser extent, because technology is moving so fast that I would almost be, it's like the science, education, and math. And so if anybody's wondering what STEMs is, it's science, technology, education, math. That type of stuff makes sense. The other stuff, nah, man, it's school of hard knocks.
Well, so obviously, to Wood's point, what we're not saying that, you know, college is evil or college is bad. You know, if you want to pursue
I'll say that.
Okay, that's fine. That's totally cool.
Canadian ones are.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows that, but sorry.
It costs less, though.
Well, I'm going to pick on Canada a little
You
bit.
learn more too.
We're not saying college is bad, but let me ask you this. Why is it easier? Because both of my youngest daughter is 22. She just graduated with her bachelor's, and my oldest graduated with her bachelor's, and they want to be teachers, and which is awesome. And my wife and I both told them, and FYI, I didn't get a loan. Texas loves their veterans, so Texas veterans actually get their kids' college paid for, so it's a big thing. So I just wanted to throw #veterans in there a little bit. But why is it easier for an 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old kid to sign up for $50,000 worth of debt that can literally never go away? That is the only debt, correct me if I'm wrong, Wood, but that is the only debt that you cannot hit the atomic reset button for in a bankruptcy. That debt carries over. If I had massive college debt and I pass away, guess what? My wife is going to have to pay that. If she can't, that passes on, right? Why is it that is a thing? But if I'm a 23 or 24-year-old tradesman with or tradesperson, because there's lots of wonderful ladies in the field as well, why can't I be a 24-year-old tradesperson with tangible skills? Why can't I get a $30,000 business loan so I could buy a truck and a jetter machine if I want to be a plumber, or if I can buy a truck, you know, and tools, you know, evac machine and all that stuff, so I can be an air conditioning, company? Why is it harder, you know, for somebody that can use their practical skills, you know, to turn a revenue or generate revenue? Why is it harder for them than it is for, you know, for the student loans? So I don't want to get into conspiracy theories here, but
it's funny you said that, because I was going to say we can go down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole if you really wanted, but I don't think we should.
Well, so for sure, because you know, and look, okay, so all right, I don't really have too many beers on Wednesdays or whatever day it is today, so I'm feeling kind of good, but But the thing with the trades is simple. You're providing a service to folks out there that absolutely need it, right? Like when it's super hot outside and Grandma Smith can't breathe because it's too hot. If you're a service tech, you're out there, you're out there making her life better, And if I can't get a loan as a kid to become a contractor, but I can get a loan, to go and get a business degree. What was it you mastered in, Joel Cale?
Drinking alcohol and
drinking alcohol. Yeah. Well, there you go. So again, I kind of had a brain fart there. My apologies. So
hey, it's all good. It's just a business degree for anybody. It was a business degree, which most things you learn in business you don't learn at school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we early on, the second time we did a presentation in front of high school students, I actually broke it out. And I was very conservative with the numbers I used on the trade school side, and ran side by sides. And it's like, by the time someone graduates, has paid that money, has that debt, and is looking for their first job, someone in the trades could have gone through 4 years, maybe 5, because the average length of college education is over 4 years now. It's
there's no 4 years,
5.5 years.
Yeah.
And you could literally have made $100,000 to $130,000 if you're in the trades and have some credentials, a journeyman's card, whatever, and be well on your way. Well, guess what? That person starting out, in order to catch up and kind of have the net wealth at the same level, unless they hit a home run in a STEM type of occupation, they're looking at probably 15 years to catch up,
right,
and be even with that tradesperson. And oh, by the way, I've worked high tech before, and I've seen when the jobs go away. I was in Silicon Valley in 2000 to 2003, and it went from I moved up there. I was getting recruited by recruiters, and I'm an HR guy. Hey, how much are you making? We can get you more. I promise you we can. It's a .com. It's going well. And I had guys that I was trying to recruit, electrical engineers, who were saying, well, I need 10,000 options to come to work for you. Dude, our stock is real. It's actually traded on the market. It's making money. Well, I got to have those options. Well, you're saying you've got an offer from a buddy over there. How much are those options worth? Well, it's pre-IPO. They're not worth anything yet. Well, guess what? A year later, say about a year after 9/11, all of that went away. There were over 1 million square feet of commercial space between San Jose and San Francisco because everything was pushed offshore that could be pushed offshore, and a lot of stuff just died. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities that you don't have to have that kind of mentality of, oh yeah, I'm going to knock this out of the park. Slow and steady sometimes is what wins it.
Great. So how do we take that message and get on the mountaintop and shout it out loud?
I think you're really good at what you do, Joel.
Yeah. Let me add one thing that I think is probably the biggest challenge to doing that is we talk to kids. We get people who are calling us saying, hey, look, I'm brand new. I just graduated, and there's good trade schools and bad trade schools. Okay. I just graduated this trade school. I've got 16 weeks of training. I'm ready to go to work. I want to work as an AC tech. Well, most employers in the trades, most contractors, they don't want to touch those guys because in their minds, they don't know anything yet. Well, guess what? We got to get some companies that are willing to invest. And I'm not saying they got to staff with a full crew of that, but make room for one or two that they pull in and they bring up through the trades, because you don't have any bad practices then. You get guys taught the right way. They don't know enough to not know what they don't know, and you're training them in a way that they can get ahead. I do think it's got to be where every organization that has a public voice, and even those contractors in areas, we see some contractors who will reach out. One of our clients on the East Coast has got one person who's designated, and that's all they do is they're really working with the high schools. They do actively recruit that way. That's making a difference in that arena, but we've got to have a lot more of that across the board.
So my take on that is we have to make the trade sexy again. We just do. Hands down, period, full stop. We have to make the trade sexy again. The average age of a tradesperson, and obviously location matters, but With HVAC, plumbing, electrical, the average age, give or take, is in the 50s. Some areas it's high 40s, low 50s. Other areas it's high 50s. You know, what does that mean? That means there's a massive gap. So every day that we wake up, every day that all four of us wake up, we're starting with a deficit. There's a hole in this bucket that we have to fill. And how do we do that? We have to make the trade sexy again. What were the trades for ever? The trades were the place you go if you can't make it. Oh, well, if he can't do it, he can be a plumber. If she can't do it, then she can be an electrician.
Not college material and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
You know what the trades are not? They are not a job. They are a career. Where else can you go and be a six-figure earner with zero college debt, have a skill set that can never, ever be outsourced, ever? It just can't. And quite literally, you can take what you've learned and apply that in different areas. I mean, heck, you guys know there's thousands of vendors now that support the trade. So if you start out in the trades, you learn how to talk shop, you know what this does and why this makes sense and how this will affect somebody down the line. Then you can take your skill set. You could also go into software or go into marketing or go into SEO or whatever. So there's a million and one different ways to make the trade sexy. We just have to unify as a group and just make this shit sexy again. That's what we have to do. Blue collar is awesome. I am blue collar till the day I die, period. Hands down, full stop. You know why? Because no matter what, I know for a fact if something happens, I can take care of it. Right? I can take care of my daughter. My son-in-law is really crap with tools, and it kind of makes me happy that my daughter had to call me over to do things because I always got that on him. You know, if he ever gives me shit, I'm just going to turn his power off. You know? So that part's cool, right? That part's cool. I'm not saying you need to have dominion over your kids, you know, or anything like that. But, you know, I mean, it's a little perk. So, yeah, so we need to make the trade sexy again, and it starts from within. I promise. I'm sorry, go ahead. What? I
think a couple of things. First of all, when's the last time you saw someone who is a skilled tradesperson of any type in a TV show, movie, or whatever that showed them in a positive light?
Excellent.
The plumber, the AC tech is usually the guy with the butt crack who can't put together a coherent sentence, probably doesn't have all his teeth correct, and you know, is probably 45 to 100 pounds overweight. Yeah. That's the way they're portrayed.
Yep.
Now, we have to be able to counter that. And I know we've made some feeble efforts on our own. We were actually for a while there trying to do a podcast, and it was sort of hey, we had some great people, some well-known people, HVAC girl here in Texas, for example. And we would just talk to them about what the trades were like, what the trades had done for them. But we've got to get back to doing that and doing that more, where we're highlighting people who are success stories and can really be examples for a lot of people.
Well, and that's where I love a lot of the influencers that are coming out of the space now. And it's not owners that are doing it. It's technicians that are out in the field documenting what it is that they're doing, telling their stories. And they have 50,000, 80,000, 120,000 followers on Instagram, on YouTube. And that is spreading the word really, really awesome. Well. Yeah, it's fantastic to see. It really is.
Yep.
Gum in my mouth, just FYI. So smoking used to be my job. You know, I used to smoke like it was my job. And so after a couple of beers, I got to get that nicotine gum, or I'm going to start tearing stuff up around here, you know?
As somebody who is an ex-smoker, I feel your pain.
Man, it's so good. Oh, let's be honest. Smoking is so good. It's just perfect. I love it. Well, no, I mean, when you try to tell yourself. So anyways, back on track.
Back on track. All right, we're going to hit you with the random question generators. It's one of our favorite parts of the show, where we ask you a question that has nothing to do about anything we talk about. Just some random fun and some good times. This part of the show is brought to you by On Purpose Media, your local home service marketing experts. As Thad would say, if you're marketing shit, give us a shout. onpurposemedia.ca/marketing analysis. You can hit us up, and we will go ahead and run a full analysis on your marketing, how you're showing up online right now, and be able to give you some talking points to go back to your marketing company and give them shit for what they're screwing up on, or you can just call us and have us fix it all. All right. Random question.
Did you say hit us up or hit us shup? Because if shup is a Canadian word that I'm not familiar with,
it's absolutely Canadian.
It's a dialect of rum
and
whiskey.
So hit us up. I just
Yeah,
want to
That
make
makes a lot of sense.
Listen,
It's
I just want to make sure.
It's
I just
all
wanna
one word. It's
with
concussion
7
syndrome.
S's.
So,
Concussion syndrome and rum or whiskey.
You know what this is right here? This is living. This is living.
it's living.
Before you go into your thing, and I apologize for hijacking whatever, but
Oh no, don't apologize for making fun of Evan. I think
You're sounding very Canadian by saying sorry all the time. Just throwing that
sorry,
out
out and about. I met a dude in Tokyo that he was Canadian, of course, that would eat glass. So anyway, so life is meant to be lived, and I want techs and installers and service plumbers and drain cleaners and electricians and anybody that's interested in the trades that may happen to see this, or any business owners that may see this, and you want to share this with the folks that are thinking about coming into the trades. Good contractors are going to make sure that, yeah, you're going to work hard, but they're going to make sure that you understand why what we do is important. Every single thing that we as tradespeople touch affects people's lives in a positive or negative way. Literally everything that we do in the trades has a very specific positive or negative response, or reaction or response, right? And so the training that you get, doing it more and more often, especially in the residential sector, whenever you're helping Grandma Smith or you're helping a new family, let's say a new family buys a house, and then they go into their house and none of the toilets work, and you happen to be the plumber that goes there and you make all their drains, work. You're affecting positive change, for that family. So, and I think I broke up there, so I apologize for that.
Oh, good.
How Canadian.
Apologies are always welcome here. All right. You get a choice of 1 through 5 questions. You don't get to know what they are before time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Which question do you want?
And who goes first?
Let Dan go
Dan put up
first.
a 4. So there we go.
I think first. Sorry, Wood's the loud one in our group.
For sure.
All right. What new language would you like to learn?
It's on you, Wood.
No,
Is
that's
that-
you, Dan.
that's
You said
you.
4.
That's you. That's you.
You said
It's on me. Okay,
You said
so
4.
I said 4. Oh, okay. So you said okay. So what new language? So I'm mostly fluent in Japanese. I used to be super fluent in Japanese, but I've kind of lost some. So I'm not worried about that. I know all the good keywords in Spanish. So that worried about that. Probably Mandarin because I would love to learn Mandarin. So when I was in the Navy, we went to Hong Kong quite a bit, and while I was there, so this is really going to get drawn out. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Because here we go. So I was stationed on the USS Blue Ridge when I was in the Navy from 93 to 97. And that boat was the command ship for the 3rd Fleet, or the 7th Fleet, rather. We had a 3-star admiral. Wow, these Oktoberfest beers ain't no joke. So
That might be the nicotine that's hitting you a little harder.
that's probably what it is.
True.
That's probably what it is. So what we would do is the ship would go to Hong Kong multiple times per year. And for anyone that doesn't know, the British used to have territorial control over Hong Kong up until I think it was 96. And our ship happened to be there because we were the forward power for peace. We were basically the flag. We were the U.S. representatives, pretty much everywhere we went. And so we were there in our dress whites. I was enlisted. I wasn't an officer. We were in our dress whites while the tanks rolled down, the middle of the streets there in Kowloon. It was pretty cool. And I think I can't remember if it was Mandarin or Cantonese because there's 2 dialects in China. But I've always wanted to learn Mandarin.
Love it.
Hong Kong is pretty cool. I've been there. 24. I spent like 26 hours there. It was a world.
Dude.
Didn't sleep.
Hong Kong is the best. So back in the day, pre-Chinese control, when it was still Britain, and so there's the Hong Kong side and the Kowloon side, if I remember correctly. It's been almost 30 years. And we would take this Star Ferry between Kowloon and Hong Kong. And I think it was Kowloon that had all the amazing shops. And they had this pub, is a British pub called Mad Dogs. Everybody would go there. We get a flaming Lamborghini. It's exactly what it sounds like. Horrible. And so, but we would all drink it, right? And just because you had to. And either the shopkeep was a great salesperson, or it was true, or maybe a combination of the two. But I actually, about 150 pounds ago, I had gotten a Kung Fu suit made in, he said, was the same place that Bruce Lee used to get his Kung Fu suits made in. So there's no place better in Hong Kong, period.
There you go.
Because they know how to sell. All right.
Yeah.
Woods, how about you?
For number 2.
Number 2, if you could set a world record, what would it be for?
That's a good question. I'm really into soccer. I can't do it. I'm by far the oldest in this group. I am a boomer, but I love soccer, and if I could, I would love to set a record that had to do with being the best goalie ever.
The best goalie.
Stop the most shots.
There you
something
go.
like that.
The guy who doesn't have to move much.
Well, that was why I was a goalie, because I didn't have to run the 6-minute mile like everyone else did.
Exactly.
Hey,
It's
just
smart.
being honest.
It's funny. I was a goalie in hockey, and my dad said I was really good because I couldn't get out of the way in time, so I stopped while I thought.
Man, I'm the most unathletic person you'll ever meet. I did all the YMCA stuff, but how do you strike out with T-ball? I used to strike out at T-ball. Are you kidding me? And yes, it's easier to dribble with 2 hands in basketball, assholes. I'm not going to use 1. It's easier with 2. Sorry. Not my problem.
You're not the only person I know struck out T-ball. One of my best friends has also done the same thing, and he is athletically challenged. So bringing it back.
Athletically challenged.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned we talked about hiring and we can get in retention as well, but I still wanted to touch on this because you're talking about summertime and 1,000 calls and like, oh shit, and now you need to hire.
Yeah.
When it comes to capacity planning and looking at the future, looking at where you're at, where you're going, predictions, vehicles that you have, calls that you're going to take, how do you know when it's the right time to hire?
So that is a great question. So I do have a general and pretty solid understanding of planning, on the residential HVAC, plumbing, and electrical side, but that is not my forte. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to there's a lot of great experts out there that can tell you how to plan for this and plan for that, as far as how many calls and are you pricing yourself out of the market? Are you, cutting yourself too short or whatever? Golly, that's almost a question I don't want to touch because every company is different, right? You've got some companies that are the average contractor, at least based on my research, about 80% roughly, give or take, of contractors in the U.S., residential specifically, are between 4 to 8 employees total. It seems like there's this big push for everybody to be a 15 truck company, a 20 truck company, a 50 truck company, because that's how you get your EBITDA in. That's how you flip it for $100 million and blah, 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 blah. Not everybody wants to do that. Some people really love doing this. And so that answer is going to be different for a contractor that has 4 service vehicles, 2 install crews, and a salesperson than it would be a big contractor with 100 service vehicles, 40 install vehicles, project managers, service managers, and everything else. So I almost want to bow out on answering that because I don't want to give the wrong information,
Well, let's take that out of your hands, Dan, and let's ask the Wood.
Awesome.
If
Well,
you were
here-
I'm gonna
here's-
rephrase it though, because he said 80%. So if you're the 80% of contractors who are in that 4 to 8, how would you then capacity plan?
Well, I think first of all, there's a couple of things you look at. It's going to be the hardest for the first year or two. And then you have to answer a question for yourself. Do you want to grow or you just want to be stable? Because the answer is going to be different. If you've got a projection that way, then you're going to have to figure out how to grow. But again, I've worked for 2 companies that were basically run by the same exec team. They did it by putting a budget number together, by, inflating that budget number by, 5% each year, and then doing an average ticket and saying, all right, if we raise sales prices this, it's going to be this, and we need X number of calls that run every week. Well, how many calls does an average tech run? Once you've got some historical data, that's possible. But I'd say the biggest thing is if you're new in a market or you're just starting out, you're going to have to make some educated guesses. You also look at what the weather patterns are looking like or transitioning to, and I don't think it's getting any cooler, so I think that your baseline is, all right, what did I need this year? How many calls did I have to put on hold? And I know I've worked for a company or two that in the past, they would say things like, hey, look, we'll get so many calls, we can't run them all. We're going to run them to the right zip codes. The ones that are in the lower income zip codes, we'll get to them when we can. I don't want to be that company. I don't want to be part of that company. But there's also the reality that you're not going to be, even if you're fully staffed, you're probably not going to be able to run every call. So you're going to, and if you are running every call, you're probably underpricing yourself. But taking a look at some of those factors and then saying, all right, incremental growth. If I've got 4 to 8 techs this year, maybe I should be at 6 to 10 next year. Well, what does that look like? Have I got enough calls historically to sustain that? And if you don't have a year's history, then what did you do the last 2 months? Because we're in the summer now. And then extrapolate out from that. But the biggest danger is this. You staff up for those high level times, and then you go old school when it comes to spring or to September. When the weather breaks, you start cutting people loose. You have to have something for them to do to keep them, because if you end up with a reputation that you're one of those companies that says sayonara in September, you're not going to get those guys back. So that's where you get into what can you sell in the shoulder seasons? What can you do in the shoulder seasons? A lot of companies will go to their maintenance package where they're checking up on heating systems in the fall and so forth. That's all basic stuff, though. You guys know this, but it's also where you've got to be able to sustain a majority, if not all, of your guys during those shoulder seasons.
Right. And like we've heard that numerous times on the podcast too, is like, hey, you know what, make sure that you're doing, memberships. Memberships are not dead, despite some people saying they are. And it's actually funny that coming around to that idea that memberships are not dead. It's basic stuff. But a lot of times when you say things or you need to hear it multiple times. Mm-hmm. So, and Dan, I hope you're going to go down the tangent of what can you also do in addition in the shoulder seasons to help keep and retain individuals during the slower times.
Hire to retain, number one. And if you've done the vetting, trust the people that you hire. Listen, as much as I hate to say it, we still have a lot of folks that are afraid to give up control. It doesn't matter the size of the company. And I'm not saying give up control of your company, but if you hire a service manager and you have properly vetted that service manager, then let that service manager do what they were hired to do. Be there as a sounding board. Be there to make sure they follow the structure that in your mind follows what your company goals are. But outside of that, hands off. If you have a senior service tech or a plumber or an electrician, or you have somebody that's coming up through the ranks, you have to take the training wheels off and let them ride the bike on their own. Most people micromanage to the point where people don't want to work for you at all, period. And that sucks. A lot of companies, especially brand name companies out there that have a hard time finding people, they need to do this because they're the problem. Mm-hmm. They may have the biggest numbers and, oh yeah, that's awesome when you go to a meeting in, Walla Walla, Washington with, whoever is the speaker. That may be great for powwows there, but what about your bread and butter? What about every person that's in the field working for you? How are they going to feel? You have to make sure that you think about them first. They're the ones that make you the money, and they want to do this. I promise you, we give younger folks less. We don't give them enough credit. We give them less credit than they deserve. There are plenty of kids, guys and gals that are in their 20s that just had that mechanical aptitude and the ability to talk to customers where even though they've got 2 years, they could easily outpace a 10-year person. Trust your gut. Let the people who do a good job, let them do their job. Don't micromanage. I don't care what you say. I don't care what guru comes out and they say you've got to have 15,000 touch points on this person, and if they don't do this, you got to chastise them. Guess what? You'll lose that person. And I'm a recruiter, and they'll call me, and I'll place them at a better spot.
But let me add just a couple of things. First of all, cross training, and that's going to be where I lose some people into trades even. But you know what? We had a couple of guys that I worked with through the years that they would switch trades at the end of AC season. They'd start running plumbing calls. They do some other things. A lot of companies don't do enough training, and by that, look, I'm not dissing any kind of sales training. It's always necessary because a lot of guys go into the trades because, hey, I don't want to have to talk to people. I just want to fix stuff. But the other side to it is you can't just do sales training, but if you invest some of that time where they're not as busy in opportunities to train them in new systems. I think specifically on the plumbing side, which this is AC, but the plumbing side, most of the guys I talk to, they, if at all, rarely put in a tankless water heater. Well, guess what? That's one of the things people are starting to ask about and want, and it's a high dollar item. So doing that type of training, and then every call you slow down. You may end up having, a little bit more time in the fall to be a little bit more thorough. Maybe run that call with a line manager where they're getting a little bit more support and on the job coaching, because guess what? They were so busy in the summertime, they're still in that kind of mode, and boom, they just lose it. So having those kind of things and having that kind of seize the moment. Now we can catch our breath. Some guys will want to take a little bit of more time off, and hey, look, a lot of them have worked 60, 70 hours a week through the summer months. Even if they've got family, they do that because they feel like, that's when they're going to make their money. Guess what? They don't mind a 30-hour week once in a while then. So
guys and gals in the trade, they want to learn. They really do. And it's not that kids are coming out of high school aren't interested. It's just they get turned off. I mean, nobody likes to be a number. They just don't. And every company is different. There's no cookie cutter. And, I mean, there are things that you could do pretty consistently, that are cookie cutter as far as recruiting goes. But retention, I mean, every company has their vibe, and whatever your vibe is as an owner, make sure you stick to that vibe. But when you hire people, you have to give them the ability to do their job. Otherwise, why are you hiring people?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, we hire because we need to. We feel like we need to. We've been told we need to. And yet it's so difficult to back off of that micromanaging and to give them the freedom to be able to do what it is that we've hired them to do. Mm-hmm. And I know.
Depends on what your priorities are, though. Honestly, I mean, if your priority is to be the king of the castle, and you have to be addressed as king every time somebody walks in the room, and that is your goal, then fine. Hire that way, and you will 100% have turnover the entire time you're in business, I promise.
Absolutely.
If you hire because you love what you do and you want to impart on the younger generation, hey, I'm about to show you some pretty cool shit that if you can master it, you'll never have to worry about money for the rest of your life.
Yep.
Because it's true. It's still going to be hard work, but you can literally market yourself anywhere you go in the States. And even in Canada, if they can pass through the immigration, holy cow, you guys have so much immigration restrictions up there. Anyway, so that's a different.
It just depends what country you're from. From the U.S.,
right?
We don't have that stuff. Especially
you guys are building a wall.
Especially
we claim a wall around Texas. That's all.
Claim asylum and you'll get a free ride for the next 30 years.
Yeah, we've been watching those. My oldest daughter and I have been watching those. What is it? I can't remember. Let's go ahead and move on.
But no, what I was going to reference was 2 books from Dan Sullivan, 10X is Easier Than 2X and Who Not How. Both of them talk about the same concept around hiring, being able to hire for growth. And when we run into a problem, it's not how do I fix this problem? It's who do I need to bring onto my team in order to fix this problem. And
there's also a From Good to Great book that's out there. I know it's not trade.
Yep.
It's
absolutely another great book. Yeah, Jim Collins.
Book.
And they do talk about a lot of the principles from that book in those books as well, which has been fantastic. I mean, Dan Sullivan, he's practically a dinosaur, so he's been around the block a couple times. But
no offense.
Yeah, getting into that decision of making the hiring decision. How do we know that we're getting to the place where we're actually finding the right person and not hiring out of desperation, but hiring the quality person who can actually do this job effectively the way that we want them to, so we can trust them to make good decisions within proper boundaries?
So it depends on what time of the year we're talking about. If we're talking about in the fall, you have time to vet, right? If you're looking to hire people in July, then the second you have a gut feel, you have to make that offer immediately or they're gone. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, let's pull back.
Well, and if they're looking for work in July, are they probably the best person that we want on our team?
Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true, because you can have an A+ player working for ABC Mechanical, and I know that's probably a real name, but I'm using that just as an analogy.
Yeah, that's one
That
of our potential clients here in Houston.
No, they're ABC Home Services, not mechanical.
Yeah, there you go. So, you could have a top tech. You could have the top tech at like an ABC whatever, and they just get absolutely jerked over, really bad. So that does happen. So I always like to use this analogy: fishing, sales, and recruiting are exactly the same. They really are when it's boiled down to its simplest parts. With sales, you have to ABC, always be closing, right? If you're not closing, doing your job effectively as a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing, if you're fishing for fun, that's different than fishing to live. If you're fishing to feed your family, every available pole that you have will be in the water 24/7 with every possible bait known to man, right? Because you're trying to feed your family. Recruiting also has to be done 24/7, 365. The best time to recruit is when you're fully staffed, and if you find a better person, you pluck out the weak links and then you strengthen your staff. That's the only way to properly do it. And I don't know how much I broke up, because I could tell that I was breaking up, but fishing, recruiting, and sales are the same. Do all the little things that work sometimes consistently. Consistently do all the little things that work sometimes. Do that 24/7. And the second you let up from that, if you pull all your poles in water, I don't know if it's Murphy's law, but the laws of averages, the big fish that you've been waiting for is going to come along and your poles aren't in the water, right? If you decide not to make the last sales call for the day, guess what's going to happen? You lost your whale that you could have had that could have made your quarter. And guess what? Guess what happens if you don't always have your recruiting hat on? You're potentially missing out on the roster that could change your service department. Those are facts.
So you're talking about recruiting and hiring, and I worked in a recruiting-based business. I know the difference, but I want to make sure that everyone clearly understands what is the difference between recruiting and hiring.
Go ahead, Wood. I've got my answer, but I think you're going to be a little bit better at this.
I think recruiting is all about talking to people, networking, getting to the point where you're narrowing it down. Hiring is where you actually go through the process of highlighting their priorities, seeing if there's a good match. It's more of a matchmaking process. And I think too, hiring starts before they ever hit the front door. They've already applied. You've had an initial conversation, but somewhere in that transition, you've got to start building a rapport, building a relationship, start building loyalty even before they come on board. Because what happens is, hey, one of our best clients, we look at their numbers regularly. They have people who go through the process, accept the job, go through all the pre-screens. They're supposed to be there Monday. Guess what? They never show up. So you've got to start to demonstrate to them that you really want them, and that you've got, you're going for more of a relational approach than just, okay, you're going to fit in this truck. We're going to be full. We'll be good to go. Here's, I've seen this from managers. Here's 15-minute demonstration on how to fill out our invoices. I know you're good at this. There's the keys to your truck. Here's five calls I need you to run today. Right. That guy's not going to last, And so in my mind, that's part of it. Now, everyone's going to define hiring different, because there's some who will say, you know what, every time I put a guy in a truck, or every time I have a guy sign a W-2 or a 9 or whatever it is they sign. I should know this. I'm HR, but a little of this, and it's been 4 years, so that's enough.
I was going to say,
I'm in trouble with HR all the time. HR hates my guts at our company.
Hey, just call it T4, T5, and T5A, and you're good. That's Canadian Canada talk for basically the exact same thing that you're saying.
Well, if you consider that hiring, you've missed the boat, because that guy will be there until something better comes along, and that something better may be a 25-cent, an hour increase over what you get paid. It may be a promise that, hey, look, we'll only make you run on call one night every month. Who knows what it is, but there'll be something that's going to entice them. If you've started to build that rapport and that relationship with them, build some loyalty with them, and show them that, hey, not only do I expect loyalty, but I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to show it to you. Then, you know what? You've got something that 25 cent an hour, 50 cent an hour, $1 an hour isn't going to be enough, because they like, and they know they like you. They know you appreciate them, and they know that you understand what they deal with out in the field.
Here's something I'm going to say, and I know you have an agenda, and my apologies for interrupting yet again, but I tend to look around at some I think I'm part of every group that you guys are a part of, and I see the chatter, and I'm parts of lots of construction groups as well. And anytime you see somebody or hear somebody say, all you got to do, it's like when somebody poses a question, how do I recruit? Well, if somebody says all you got to do, delete that person immediately, because anybody that says all you got to do doesn't really know. They're regurgitating what they've heard from somebody else and probably haven't applied it, if that makes sense.
Right. And this could be a whole nother 30-minute conversation, but the easiest way to recruit and retain top talent, create culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the biggest way.
Be the best company your market to work for, hands down. That's
100%. 2 people that come to mind: Amanda Triolo at Go Grasshopper. We had a conversation with her for 30 minutes on the culture that she's created, right? Tommy Mello, A1 Garage Door, and the culture that he's created, right? It's easy for him to recruit and retain top talent. It's easy for her to recruit and retain top talent because they have a strong culture. I'm not a betting man. I think I've spent $20 once in a casino playing blackjack. I lost it. I put another $20 down. I got up to $40. I'm like, fuck it, I'm out. And I left. So I broke even in the casino. The only time I've ever really gambled in a casino. I mean, lotto tickets, I don't really count those. But I would be willing to wager money that the people that are talking in the Facebook groups that say, I can't retain people, I can't find workers, I can't get anybody in my business, I've got trucks sitting empty, don't have a very strong culture.
You know what happens, in my opinion? There are a lot of people. So we all know that a lot of contractors, a lot of businesses are the service manager, ops manager, or top tech that was tired of dealing with whatever BS, so they decided to start their own gig, right? That's how it goes. Now, so I tell my kids this, right? So my kids are 22 and 26. My oldest has, a baby, my grandson, and she, asked my wife, thank you very much. So she goes, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, everything you hated as a kid, just don't do that as an adult, right? I mean, but it's true. So if now all of a sudden you're a business owner, right, and you hated this and you hated that. Now, admittedly, when you're in the field, you think that the owner has $1 million in every single drawer in their house, right? We all know that's not true. So there's misconceptions there. But if you hated being treated a certain way, if you hated being left out of things a certain way, then guess what? Don't do that. That's the easiest way to help build a culture. The whole treat people like you want to be treated, dude. I mean, that's real. It's real. And what I find companies, and it sounds like the 2 that you're talking about, it sounds like they're treating people the way that they wanted to be treated when they were back out in the field. You know what I mean? That's not rocket science. That's just being a good human, and passing forward, something awesome.
Right. And look, there's a lot more out there than those 2. Those are just the first 2 that came to mind as the best operators of the culture. Yeah. But it really is that. I mean, like, 100% does. But you hit the nail right on the head. Is a lot of times the guys, they're frustrated with somewhere inside in the business. They're going to go start their own, but they have no clue what to do no clue how to run the business.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to some of the other topics that we've had on there is if you, and I told our team this, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that if you ever want to run your own digital marketing agency, come talk to us. We'll open up everything. We'll show you maybe not necessarily to the nitty gritty detail of the books. We'll show you percentages, right? And there's a lot of like Tersh Blissett, Service Business Mastery, Service Emperor, same thing. He even says, hey, if I want people, they say, hey, I want to start to run my own service business. Great. I will show you everything that I do and that you need to do in order to be able to have a successful business. And if that is the path you choose, I am going to be the biggest advocate in your corner because I've set you up for success. Where the other business owners go, you want to run your own business? Yeah, fuck it. You're out. Bye. See you later. Fired. And now they've got to figure it all out on their own. And now they're chucking a truck. And now they're fucking people over. Like, no, be better.
Yeah, they're undercutting everything. Yeah.
Right? And now they're running a bad business. And then it's just tough all the way around the board.
Or with that knee-jerk reaction, it's sort of they didn't even know it's like the dog chasing the car. They don't know what to do once they catch it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was standing talking to a manager one time, and he was a great manager. He was a smoker. We're standing out front. I'm having a conversation with him about something, but every person that comes in, and trust me, this was one of at the time, the largest residential HVAC service centers in the United States. Every person that came in, be it a CSR, be it a tech, be it a plumber, would, hey, how's it going? Hey, how was your daughter's ball game the other night? He knew everyone, right? One of their plumbers comes up. It's always a plumber. I love the plumbers, but it's always a plumber. Looks at him and he says, hey, how's it going? Has a short conversation with him. And the guy looks at him kind of in a sarcastic way and says, someday I won't be a manager so I can sit around, smoke cigarettes, put my feet up, drink coffee, and tell people what to do. And that's what he thought management was. I think a lot of people think owning a business is you're going to look really big time and you're going to stand out because, hey, I'm on my own. They don't realize all the nitty gritty of taking care of, recalls, having to cover payroll, having to have vehicles, having to have supplies, all that lined out. And it's all the tougher after that event that you don't want to mention back in 2020 and 2021. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most don't understand the stress that comes from having to call a customer to collect, because if you don't get that money, you can't make payroll.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
They don't know what that stress is like.
No. Oh, and just FYI, as a vendor, there are contractors that scream about that on Facebook that don't pay their bills on time either. So,
yep.
So,
100%. But it's a real thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about is like you see, and we talked about influencer status and yada yada. Yeah. People talk about all the things that are good. They show all the things that are amazing. They don't talk about the stress that goes into it. Oh, I slept 2 hours last night because I was up thinking about the state of my business and can I actually pay my people. For our team watching, that's not the case here. Don't worry. Just disclaimer. But here's the thing: is like we started our business February 2020.
Right now about that,
right? Yeah. They're watching. They have a podcast party. They watch us do our podcast in our virtual office. It's great. But look, we started our business in February 2020. Well, we started earlier than that, but we went and I quit my job and landed 5 clients within the first week. And 4 weeks later, guess what? We lost 4 of those 5 clients because of COVID. I know I said the word I wasn't going to say, but now you sit there and you say, okay, well, how do you actually you got, a wife and no kids at that time. And you start the business and all that stress that people don't necessarily know or understand or think about, but there's a lot that goes in. There's a lot of sleepless nights in there. Right. And I mean, fast forward now we're in a different spot, but a lot of businesses, I would bet, started similar to that. Maybe not necessarily the same circumstances, but the struggles and the trials and the tribulations that I think more people need to know about before they go and start a business.
It's true. Yeah,
I mean, so I'm not really an expert in starting a business other than, we're doing good, we're rocking and rolling. So I certainly don't want to impart any words of wisdom on something that I'm not truly trained in,
It's all good. Well, it's all good. You guys are business owners, right? But you guys are business owners. So
hey, if I may, though, Dan, your whole haunted house thing, dude, that thing was rocking and rolling until it wasn't. And so you've been through some of that.
So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur for sure. I've always had a steady job, but yeah. So behind me, wow, Canada's so backwards. So if I did this in the States, it would point over there. So anyway,
That's
so
a
back
setting.
here,
That's a setting
so
you
these
can
are masks
change.
from. I used to own a professional haunted house. Oh well, in Texas we don't know how to change settings, sir. So so over here, so these are masks from my professional haunted house that I used to have. It started out in my front yard with my kids, and then it just grew to be one of the top. It was easily the top 10 about 3 or 4 years in a row. It was the only Japanese themed haunted attraction in the country, and the name of it was Dan's Haunted House. It was awesome. I loved it. And then also this way, okay, so I'm getting it. So I'm an amateur comedian, and so technically I have an LLC around that as well. I've made a little bit of money, like enough to buy a soda, but that's it. So yes, I am a serial entrepreneur for sure, but I don't want any of my words or anything I say to influence somebody to start a contracting business, because I've never started a contracting business. Right. And I know there's a lot of moving parts. I know if you dig it, do it. If you really dig it, do it twice. And that is a Jim Croce reference. And I promised everybody I love that I would throw that out there. Peace and love, peace and love. So with Jim Croce, and that being said, if you really want to be a contractor, then treat people literally the way that you hated, or don't treat people the way that you hated being treated when you were working for contractor A or contractor B.
100% agree. But do unto others, right? Whether you're biblical or not, or religious or not, rather, do unto others. It's just an age-old quote that sparks a lot of wisdom in all. So, hey, look, guys, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I know we're at an hour and 16-minute mark here, and we can keep going, I'm sure. But if you've taken some success, these guys help and specialize in recruiting and retaining your top level talent. Be sure to reach out to them at bluecollartalentscouts.com. If you have questions for Dan at bluecollartalentscouts.com, and right. Wood at bluecollartalentscouts.com. We also have a phone number to write on bathroom stalls. I mean, give them the call if you need a hand. 713-545-2362. That actually goes to Wood, not Dan. So probably.
Well, Wood also
I'll be glad to pass it along to him, though.
Yeah, well, Wood also serves as his talent scout for his live comedy shows, so you'd be able to find out his schedule on there.
Listen, if you close your ears, and I'm really funny.
Got a face for radio.
Wow.
Hey, look, as we wrap up, though, we have one final question, and it's asked to each of you. But who wants to take this one first?
Either one. You call it.
You guys pick.
Evan, you pick. I'll ask.
Wood,
all right. Wood, what is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't?
How can I build a sustainable culture and recruiting process?
Oh, that is a very long answered question. If you're to summarize that in 3 minutes or less, how could somebody do that?
Oh, that's a trick, huh? I think the biggest thing is we've just been talking about culture. That's part of it. You also have to be very, very intentional in the way that you put together processes. You need to understand that your priority, even above sometimes client calls, is if you get the right person, the right credentials reaching out, you're on a very short clock. We like to tell our clients, hey, you're on the clock. It's not our clock, it's the clock. Because if a good tech decides they're going to make a move, they'll talk to us today. And by the end of the day, they'll talk to 3 of their buddies and they'll be moving somewhere. So you have to be able to deliver what you promise. You have to be a master at onboarding processes. And that includes going into that 30, 60, 90 days after. Most people who get hired and leave, most turnover takes place within the first 6 months.
Yeah,
I've seen it before at a couple of organizations where that means that first 30 or 60 days, do pulse surveys, everything's hunky-dory, it's a honeymoon. By 90 days, it's like, I'm ready for a divorce. And the managers have to be realistic, because I have had too many managers that I worked with through the years who would beg me to make exceptions on policies. Would I need this guy? He's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And within 2 weeks, they've made up their mind and they're calling me saying, I got to get rid of this POS.
You can say piece of shit. It's okay.
Yeah, well, it's just the code word that they would use with me because I was HR.
Right.
Yeah.
So
great summary, by the way. Yeah. I think that was even in 2 minutes or less. And look, I've alluded to it earlier, right? I mean, the culture that's a completely different conversation. I mean, we can spend another hour on that. And so
I was going to say, typical Woodsy, always coming in quicker than he expected.
Follow Evan for more comments like that.
I'm writing that down. I'm
Use that in your next comedy show. Dan, we have the same question for you. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
Do you care what people think? And the answer is no. Because I know what I do is good for me. I know it's right for me. And if I worry about what everybody thinks, then I'll never be able to be the true me, right? Whether that's in recruiting or retaining, or as a husband, as a father, as just a person walking around. Yeah, we're in business to make money for sure, but what we do is a feel-good business, because every single placement we make is a connection where we're helping somebody better their family. And for every company we help make that connection, that's a company who really wants to help their people, and they have a more solid person on their team so they can expand the way they need to. So that's my answer.
I wish more people would have that answer, to be honest, that I mean, you are who you are. Don't try to be somebody else to please somebody else.
That's right.
Well, and the interesting thing is that, you know, as a new business owner starting out, the guy that's been in business for 10 years, 20 years is not going to be the one that's tearing you down. He's going to be the one that's picking you up.
That's right.
And rooting you on.
That's right.
It's the people who have never done it. They're the ones that are going to try and keep you where you're at, because they're scared of where you're going to go and that you're going to leave them behind.
Yeah. What is the phrase? High tides raises all boats. You know,
Yes.
there's too much bashing. I mean, there's too much just criticizing. There's too much behind the back. And I mean, come on, man. I mean, you know, let's elevate this trade as a unified group, because, again, let's go back to the numbers. The average age of a tradesperson, they're in their 50s. If we don't do something now, then within the next 20 years, everything that we do is going to be in danger. Our livelihood is going to be in danger. Just life is going to be in danger. If you don't have people to install and service what we have, we're in trouble. So come on, kids, let's get together. Let's stop being assholes. Let's make nice. And let's create an environment where kids actually want to come out of high school and not be an influencer, but they want to be a service tech or a service plumber or an electrician. Let's do that. How about we do that?
Well,
spread love.
Double D and Wood, thank you so much for coming
Double D,
on.
baby.
Appreciate you guys helping making the trade sexy again. And,
that's our goal. We do it one face at a time.
There you go. I did forget to mention, you guys stick around after this in our green room. We'll until next time.
Awesome.
I was gonna say something else. I'm like, I changed my mind, but until next time.
Rock and roll up. Rock and roll.
Hang with good people.
Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.